Davar be'itoy matov. How great is it when things are in their correct time? It is Elul, and in Elul, we think very hard. And many of us here have passed by many Eluls. This is not our first rodeo, as we say. This could be Elul number 60 or 70 or 80 or even more. So when I think about Davar be'itoy, I want to start off with a story that I always think of. It's a story about Chapping Arayin. I read this story in the newspaper. It's not a Jewish person. I read it when I was a young man, and this story affected me in a Yiddish way. There was a man whose wife said to him, "I'd like you to clean the garage." And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it on Saturday." Now, he's not Jewish, it's not Shabbos, from Saturday. He'll do it on Saturday. And she said, "Okay, I really want it done, but if I have your word, you're gonna do it on Saturday." Comes Saturday, and for the non-Jew, what goes on Saturday? The college football games. And it goes on throughout the day. So his wife says to her husband, "Okay, you're gonna go do the garage like you said you would." And he said, "Please stop nagging me. I'm watching the game." And she says, "There's always gonna be a game on. Go do it. You said you would." "I don't have time. I can't. I'm watching the game. Stop bothering me." She says, "When are you gonna do it? You said you're gonna do it." He said, "I'll do it on Sunday. Leave me alone." So finally she saw there's no point arguing with him. He's not gonna listen anyways. So she let it go. And Taki did not do it on his Saturday, but on Sunday, he also had a football game on. But after the game, he then goes to the garage and he begins to clean out the garage. And he's cleaning and he's cleaning. And he sees on one of the shelves a jar. And that jar had inside of it nails and screws and pennies and little knickknacks. And amongst the items that were found in this glass jar was a lottery ticket. A lottery ticket, an old lottery ticket. So he's just a little bit curious, you know. Who knows, an old lottery ticket in a jar. So he opens up the jar, takes out the lottery ticket, and on the back of the lottery ticket is the phone number for the lottery to find out what the winning numbers were. So on a whim, he calls up the lottery and he says, "What were the winning numbers on such and such a date?" And the lady who answered the phone looks it up and she says, "Okay, on that date, the winning numbers were 14, 18, 26, 27, 32, 41. And as she reads each number, he's getting more. Huh? Really? 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 And then he begins to holler and scream, "Yes, yes." And she says, "What?" He says, "How much were the winnings that day?" "What was the winning?" She said, $27 million. "I'm rich, $27 million. And she says, sir, calm. "Yes, $27 million. I won't have to, sir, please calm down." So finally he says to the lady, "Yes, what is it?" She said, "I don't know how to tell you this. I regret to tell you, but the ticket expired yesterday. If you had called me yesterday, I would have had you run straight down to the lottery. We could have cashed it, and we could have given your $27 million after taxes. But today it's nothing but a bookmark. It's a piece of scrap paper." The next day, as he's going to sit in his cubicle in his 9-to-5 job, working now the rest of his life. This is a true story. This is in the newspaper. The guy who missed the lottery by one day. So all the women in the audience, what are they going to learn out of this? Listen to your wife. Listen to your wife. She says, "Do it on Saturday. Do it on Saturday." But really, there is a concept of davar be'itoy matov. doing something in the right time is so much more golden than missing the boat. When we are standing here in Elul, contemplating tshuva, thinking about shofar, thinking about what needs rectification, we should understand that the ticket can still be cashed. It is still early enough. When we're standing in shul on the day of Rosh Hashanah, and then the Baal Tokeh gets up, Shvarim Teruah, okay, what am I supposed to be thinking about? What is it? It's a little bit late. It's a little bit hard to cash your ticket and digest the message of the shofar if you haven't thought about it in advance. So I want to give one concept, one idea, and that's it. Then I go back to Muncie, and you go back, we have some coffee and cake, one idea, and then we're good, okay? I don't overshoot, I'm not so smart. One idea is all we need. Here's the one idea. You know, I have a hobby. It used to be a passion. Baruch Hashem, I think I outgrew it. I'm not sure, but I think I outgrew it. But I still have an affinity towards this hobby. And this hobby is Jewish art. Jewish art. I looked outside in the hallway over there. There's Jewish art. You ever notice that Jewish art there? So maybe the difference between you and I is you see a nice painting and I see Boris Dubrov, because I not only know who the artist is, I'm his friend who painted those paintings, and I have the originals in my house. I appreciate nice art. You appreciate? Appreciate. I have it on the wall. By the way, you know where it comes from? It comes from because when I was a rabbi in UCLA, in the campus, I once had a student, and he's sitting in my house on Shabbos, and he says, I have a question for you. He says, why is there something against Judaism to have nice art? And I said, why would you say that? Because I've been to so many Orthodox houses, and I don't see anything nice on the wall. So what I wanted to tell the students, because we have better things to spend our money on, like tuition. But I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I thought about it a little bit. And then the next time I saw a piece of art in a sale, I bought it. And from there, I began to appreciate it. And today, you know, I have art that's on the wall. And when people come for Shabbos, they appreciate it. Art, that's what it is. Now, I want to tell you a little secret about art. Some art is beautiful. Just the vision of the picture. No one has to be a chacham to tell you it's beautiful. Jackie Mason used to say, you know, the comedian Jackie Mason, he used to say, no one has to teach you to like a potato chip. You know why? Because it's a potato chip and it tastes good. So if they have to tell you why a certain thing tastes good, maybe it doesn't taste good. They have to explain to you, right? If it tastes good, it tastes good. So certain art tastes good. It looks beautiful. Then again, there's certain art where someone's got to tell you, oh, by the way, this is art. Really? Yeah. This is choshev art. There's a very famous artist. We'll see who knows their art in the room here. His name is Jackson Pollock. Does anyone ever hear it's a Jewish name, right? Not the first, the last name is Jewish, right? Jackson Pollock. If you've ever seen Jackson Pollock, everything is look verschmiert and verstribbled. You know? It's like he took paint and he threw it against the canvas. You ever see his art? A little spritz here, a little spritz there, and it's worth $20 million. Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock? Someone has to tell me it's art, because if I didn't know, then, you know, I may see it, and I may think my kindergartner made it in camp. You know, the project, he spritzed. But this is Jackson Pollock. That's why there have been cases where people have gone to garage sales and they pick up a painting for, you know, $1 or $2, and it turns out it's a Jackson Pollock, and it's worth millions of dollars. Now, why don't you ever find a Rembrandt in a garage sale? Because it looks like art. No one's going to put a Rembrandt in a garage sale. But when you see a Jackson Pollock, ooh, you can't tell. What makes the Jackson Pollock choshev? The name. Now, I'm simplifying, of course. I understand art and what he was trying to do, but still, if the name wouldn't be there, If the name would be Yankel Shmerel Beryl wrote it, would it be worth $20 million? Maybe not $20. The name makes it. When you understand who the artist was, you give it chashivas. It's important. If it's an important artist, it's worth millions. Here's the one idea I want to give you. I want to convey to you today. In Vidui, in the Al-Chetz, in the Oshamnu Bogadnus, half of our Averos that we confess, half of our sins are Averos ben Adam lachaveroi. Between us and our neighbor, us and our friend. Why is it that we are so shavach, that we're so weak, that we struggle so much in treating people with dignity and love and respect? And the answer is, we forget who the artist is. There's an artist. There's a tzayer in tzayer kelokenu. So instead of looking at a person with a brain and with eyes and with blood cells and muscles and teeth and hearing and chachma and bina, instead of treating them like the greatest work of art that exists in the entire universe, which it is, which we are, there's no supernova out there, no galaxy, no nebula, nothing as complicated and as deep and as mysterious as a human brain. Nothing even close. Nothing as complex as the DNA that codes us, that allows us to be individuals, allows us to be us. But what happens is we look at each other like generic beings, just 1 in 7 billion. And we forgot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made partzufeim shonos, deoseim shonos. Our faces are different. The way that we think is different. Our life experiences are different. A photographer will tell you there's nothing as beautiful. Not a sunset, not a Grand Canyon, not a Niagara Falls. Nothing is as beautiful as a human face. And the more lines, the better. Because every line, every wrinkle bespeaks tragedy and joy and victory and triumph and journey and experience, and it's all right there. And a person with a smart eye can see there's something so beautiful about a human being. But ain't Tzayer Kelokenu. There's nobody like this Tzayer. But I forget that there is a Tzayer. The key to being great is recognizing the Roima Mosa Adam. Recognizing that every single person is worth it for the entire universe. You could look to your right now, and you could look to your left, and there's nothing out there. And the universe is mighty big. The universe is at least 93 billion light years across. That's bigger than any of us can imagine. And in all of those stars, and all of those planets, and all of those moons, and the dark matter, and the dark energy, and the galaxy, everything out there, there's nothing as impressive as the person sitting next to you. And there's nothing as impressive as you are. When we forget Roma Musa Adam, when we forget how uplifted the human being is, then unfortunately we just trip up and we speak Lashon Hara and we commit Oinaz Devarim and we speak in a way that hurts people, and we ignore people, and people feel lonely and left alone simply because we don't value. You know, when I was younger, I lived in Borough Park. I had been married a few years, and there was a young girl who was in camp, and she got lost in the woods upstate. I think her name was Suri Feldman. Suri Feldman, you remember Suri? So I was living in Borough Park. I was living on 14th between 45th and 40. I'm sorry, I was living between 14th and 15th on 45th Street. Those any old borough parkers here? Yeah, old borough parkers. I bet you know my mother-in-law. Ready for this? Who's the mother? My mother-in-law's name was Tina Jervel. Oh, you know, Rabbi Jervel. There's Yaakov. That's my mother-in-law. Ah, you see, I'm speaking to the right crowd. They all know her. For the men of here, my shver is Rabbi David Jervel, who makes the tapes and the books for the Kinderlach. Right? Ah, you see? This is my yichus, my mother-in-law, Tova Tina Jervel, Rebbetzin Jervel. And I was living right next door to her for many years. I was actually a Rav in the Aguda that became Novominsk, and I don't know what it is today. Right over there on 14th, between 45th and 46th, across from Svardish Shul. You know her, right? Across from Appel's, right? So, Suri Feldman was lost. And Klal Yisrael came out by the hundreds and maybe even by the thousands. People were davening. People were searching. People were looking. Entire yeshiva stopped what they were doing to daven. And then, Nisei Nisim, she was found. And Klal Yisrael was exuberant. We made songs about it. Right? The Miami Boys Choir had a song, Chazdei Hashem, Ki Lo Yisam. You remember that? That song was made up of Suri Feldman. We're so happy when we find one person. So why aren't we happy with the person sitting next to us? Are they less than Suri Feldman? Does it have to be a tragedy? Does it have to be front page news for us to suddenly care? Everyone was davening and praying for Gilad Shalit. He was a prisoner for years. So what about the person who's not the prisoner? What about the person who simply needs a good Shabbos? The problem is we take that for granted. It's got to be dramatic or it doesn't count. Well, guess what? You are dramatic. Every person next to you is dramatic. Pirkei Avos says in the Mishnah, Chavivin Adam Shenivra B'Tselem. A human being is chaviv because Hashem created a human being B'Tselem Elokim. And more than that, Hashem let us know that we were created in the image of God. We are created in the image of God. A cow isn't, a cat isn't, a goldfish isn't. We are. We're created B'Tselem Elokim. And the first thing to think about, if we want to have Roma Musadam, is to remember, if we were Nivra B'Tselem Elokim, then he is the artist. And every single human being on earth is precious. And I want to tell you something, and I'll say it over here in Borough Park, and it's important. And I got this chinuch from my mother, and here's the chinuch. The chinuch is that it's not just a yid. As a matter of fact, if we only look at Yidden, that they're Nivra B'Tselem, besides being against Pirkei Avos, we cannot appreciate a Yid if everyone else we look at as Zevel, as nothing. Throughout Yiddish minhagim and throughout the Torah, there is a message that every single human being is created in the image of God. And that's the first step to appreciating a Yid. You can't appreciate a Yid unless you appreciate that everyone is Nivra B'Tselem. And if you need proof to this, let's throw some proof at you. Pesach. What do we do when we're saying Dam Tzvardei Akinim? What do we do? What's the minute? Dam Tzvardei Akinim. Why are we taking out wine when we say Dam Tzvardei Akinim? So we know the answer is because there is human suffering. And if anyone suffers, since we are Nivra B'Tselem, we have to feel pain. Everyone is created B'Tselem. The start of feeling Roima Musa Adam is by understanding that everyone is Nivra B'Tselem. I'll tell you another riot to this, another proof. When the Malachim wanted to say Shira, when the Yam Suf split, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say? Ma'aseh Yadai Tavu Bayam Ve'atem Oimrim Shira. These are my works. These are my creations. Please, don't sing Shira. It's too important. Everyone is created B'Tselem. I'll give you another example. By Yoina, when Yoina saw that Nineveh wanted to do tshuva, he had Agmas Nefesh, and Hashem had to teach him a lesson. How did Hashem teach him that lesson? By creating a kikayon and then destroying it. And what did Yoina say? Yoina said, right, it's Marmi Moves. And Hashem said, why is it so bitter to you when I destroy a kikayon that you didn't even plant? But human beings that I made, that were made B'Tselem, they should all be destroyed, and their animals. We see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says everyone is created B'Tselem Elokim. Everyone is created in the image of the divine. My mother, Zol Gesund sein stark, taught me this at the youngest of ages. You want to appreciate a Yid, you have to appreciate humanity. You want to raise children and grandchildren to be upstanding people, you have to teach them to appreciate humanity. If you look at the rest of the world like they're nothing and only a Yid counts, then even Yidden you're not going to treat right, and I'll explain to you why. If the only ones that we treat right are Yidden, so what about a Yid that you don't agree with? What about a Yid who you consider to be a little bit crumb or doesn't have your shita? So then we'll put them in the other category of the non-Yidden or those who don't, and that category doesn't have Tselem Elokim anymore. So I can throw away people. People are disposable. That's the danger. So number one, you want to raise beautiful kindalach? Teach them Roima Musa Adam, that every single person is gorgeous. And then the Mishnah says, let's take it up one level. Chaviv Yisrael, shenikru banim lamakam. Yisrael are called the children of Hashem. Now, here's a little secret for you. Everyone is really children of Hashem. Even non-Jews are children of Hashem. But we are different. We are called B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. We are the firstborn. And what is the job of the firstborn? Why does the firstborn get Pishnaim? It does because we are the example to the world. We are the teachers to the world, but we can't teach the world if we look at the world like Zevel. You can't teach the world. How does this come into play? We all know people who need chizuk. And we decide who gets our time, who gets our energy, who gets our love. And if we were able to look at even a stranger who walks into shul as worthy of our love because they're made b'tselem Elokim, that they're banim lamakim, then I wouldn't be so quick to judge them, to put them down, to marginalize them. No, I wouldn't. Because they're banim lamakum, they're children of Hashem. Very cute story. I have a 13-year-old son named Azariah. And last week, Azariah was in the airport, and he was taking a flight from Eretz Yisrael. They had a stop in Germany, and then they were going to the United States. And my son is standing there with his brother, and he turns to the lady at the counter who's issuing his ticket, and he says to the lady, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" Now, why does he do that? Because he's my son. That's my pickup line. I go around, I ask people, "Are you Jewish?" I try to connect with them. So, my 13-year-old, he learns from me. He says, "Yeah, are you Jewish?" So the lady says back, "I am Jewish, but it doesn't really matter. It shouldn't make any difference at all, because we're all just humanity. We're all just humanity. These are all labels, Jewish, not Jewish, all just humanity." Okay? My 13-year-old, she put my 13-year-old in his place. We're all just humanity. Then as she's issuing the ticket, it's time to issue my other son a ticket. So she turns to my 13-year-old and says, is that your brother? And my son says, I don't like labels. We're not brothers, we're just humans. It's all humanity. It's just humanity. So the lady was a little bit taken aback by the scharfkeit of a Yiddish kind. So she right away said, no, that's different. Because I asked you that because I wanted to know if you're family. So my son says to her, and I asked you if you're Jewish because I wanted to know if you're family also. So Yiddish kind, my son told me he had this conversation. I was so struck. We're family. We're mishpacha. I was in France, and I had a stopover, and I'm on this walkway, this moving sidewalk, and there's a French Jewish family that's going the opposite way, and the sidewalk, they pass each other, so I'm going this way, and they're going that way, and as we pass each other, we turn and we say, Shalom Aleichem. Aleichem Shalom. Shalom Aleichem. Nesiya Tova. Have a good travel, have a good trip. And I smiled because we're never going to see each other again. We live on opposite sides of the world. But you see a Yid. Salam Aleichem. I just saw a masterpiece. Do you know who the artist was who made this Yid who's passing by? It's none other than Kudsha Brichu. Wow, Shalom Aleichem. I marvel at how beautiful you are. The only way to put down another Yid is to forget that they're made, but Salam Aleichem, that's the only way. The moment you remember that, they're a prince, they're a queen, they're a king, they are Banim Lamakum. There couldn't be more beautiful. But we forget, so we treat everyone like Chulin. This hat, this yarmulke, no yarmulke, this, that. I want to tell you the power of the Yachid. In case you're looking to your right and to your left, and you just see a person, let me tell you what it says in the end of the first parak of the Gemara in Kiddushin. It says that a person should look at the entire world, the entire world, like it is chetzi zakai v'chetzi chayev. The entire world is in balance. The entire world is half guilty and half innocent. And you, with the very next deed that you do, will decide the fate of the universe. Now, the Gemara clearly is not trying to be dramatic. If you look at the Gemara is not speaking in hyperbole. The Gemara is saying that there are times that the world literally is in balance, that the Almighty looks down and says, I see good, but I see evil, and I don't know which way we're going to turn this, and I'm going to wait to see what you, Yaakov, what you, Sarah, what you, Rivka, what you, Chaim, do, and I'm going to decide where the direction of this world is heading based on your action. Rav Brevda, a very big Baal Musar, I once heard him speak. He said a beautiful thing. He said, without brisi yoimam v'laylim, chuka shamayim v'aretz lo samti. Without brisi, without learning Torah day and night, without every moment of time having at least somebody out there learning Torah, if there would be a second or a minute, im lo brisi yoimam v'layla, then chuka shamayim v'aretz lo samti, I would end this universe. What holds the world up is Torah learning. Sir Brevda said something fascinating. He said, you know, there could have been a time in history that for 1 second, everyone was distracted. Maybe it was the end of World War II, when everyone stopped what they did and they went out celebrating. And then at that same time, there was some thunder outside, so people besmedj stopped and they said, "Shekoichot v'rosai." And then someone else just got engaged. And who knows, that 1 second in history, that 1 second, and there was only one Yidela, one person somewhere in some besmedj learning Torah during that second. And Hashem, at the time of Mashiach, is going to take this person out of obscurity and put them at the very front and say, do you know, Chevra? Do you know, world, that this one person, we owe it to this person? Because if that person hadn't been learning in that 1 second Torah, the world would have turned back to Toyu Vavayu, the power of one individual. And that one individual could be sitting here in this room. It could be a mitzvah, it could be a chesed. Every single person sitting here is an entire world. And when we forget this, we begin to look at people as disposable. You know, when somebody passes away, there is a minhag to say Kaddish. Why do we say Kaddish? Is Gadal, is Gadash, Shemei Rabbi, and I'll tell you why. We say Kaddish because the message is that when somebody passes away, a certain amount of Kedusha leaves the world. And when Kedusha leaves the world, we have to fill in that gap. What that means is that every single person sitting here has added Kedusha to the world. There's nobody here that doesn't add Kedusha that we wouldn't have to say Kaddish for after 120 years, Be'ez Hashem. Everyone has that Kedusha. Now, sometimes we look at people, unfortunately, as nebuchals. So a person, they're a nebuch. Here's a person that comes from brokenness, a person who comes from a dysfunctional home. They grew up, they have issues, they have problems, they're in therapy. Maybe they're not the kind of person that I'm going to rest the Jewish people on. Maybe that's not the kind of person who I'm very proud to see that it's signed by God Almighty. Maybe the artist is not that proud, who knows? But of course, that's utter nonsense. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. Do you know that biblically speaking, you cannot be a leader unless you come from dysfunction? Think about it. Let's take Avraham Avinu. Abraham, the father of many nations, Av Hamon Goyim. Who was he? Well, first of all, he had a father who loved him a lot, who basically had him thrown into a kivshan ha'esh. So thanks, Dad. Thank you for agreeing to have me thrown into a fiery furnace. Right? Then he had a brother who was thrown in and died. Then he was forced to leave his home and wander pretty much all of his life. Then he couldn't have children for many, 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 many years. And finally he has to take an extra wife. And that wife gives him a child. And who's that child? Well, the forefather of Isis, Yishmael. So Avraham Avinu's first progeny was Yishmael. Somebody was a Pera Adam, a difficult and wicked person. Then the wife, Hagar, who by all accounts was a very special lady, she was thrown out, so he's got to throw one of his wives out. Then another one of his wives doesn't have children until she's 90 years old. And then that child, what does he have to do with him? He has to take him and shacht him. Last minute he gets a reprieve, only to come home to find his wife dead because the Satan shocked her to death. Then he has to pay 400 kikar kesef to buy a little cave. And then in his lifetime, he sees this cute little grandson named Esav. I mean, Avram lived a lifetime of tzaras enough for 10 people. Do you know Avram? He didn't have an easy life. Well, what about Yitzchak? Don't even start with Yitzchak. Well, first of all, Yitzchak was blind. He had a brother named Ishmael, forefather of ISIS and jihad. He had a kid named Esav, who is as wicked as can be. He didn't find the shidduch for many, many years. And the rest of his life, he had a hard time discerning who should get the bechor. That's not nachas. Yitzchak didn't have nachas. Yaakov? Well, let's see. Yaakov's great uncle was Ishmael. His uncle was Lavan, whose nickname was the trickster. His brother was Esau, who just wanted to kill him. And then he goes from there and he works for his trickster uncle and gets tricked again and again and again. Finally has to run away from his uncle, who's also his father-in-law, only to have the wife that he loves not be able to have children. Then he's got his daughter Dinah. We know what happened to her. And then his beloved son Yosef gets kidnapped for 20 years. I mean, Yaakov said it clearly. You may shnoi saimat v'roim. So Yaakov lived a horrible life. Avram did. Yitzchak did. Yaakov did. Yosef, well, we don't even have to go there. From when he was a kid, he was kidnapped by his brothers and discarded. Very, very difficult life. Moshe Rabbeinu is a little tot. Right, he gets brought up in a non-Jewish home. Then Paro wants him dead. He runs away. Amram wanted to kill him, according to the Medrash as well. A snake almost ate him up. He had no appreciation. Hashem gives him a nice stutter because he ate the coal instead, even though he wasn't going to choose the coal. And he had no nachas from the Eden, again and again and again. Moshe then lived a very tough life. And then my favorite of all, the one I feel close to, David HaMelech. David HaMelech, our dear, dear David HaMelech. We say David HaMelech's words every day in Tehillim. Don't we love David HaMelech? Acha Sha'alti. We say it every single day, twice a day. David HaMelech lived a horrible life. First of all, Shmuel didn't even choose him. His own father didn't think he was right to be the king. Shmuel goes to try to find a king. It's not Eliyav, it's not Avidan, it's not him. Finally, Shmuel says, do you have any other kids? Yeah, I got a little redhead out there in the field. I'm sure you don't mean the redhead. Yeah, I do. So David HaMelech has a little kid. He's there forced to fend off the flock from bears and lions. He kills Goliath, and instead of getting all sorts of praise for it, Shaul, the king who he helps, wants him dead, throws a spear at him. He's forced to run away. Again and again, Shaul tries to kill him. No nachas there. Finally, he becomes the king, and after he becomes the king, his kids want to kill him. David HaMelech lived a very difficult life. And yet, every one of these people who today a therapist would recommend heavy therapy for, every one of them became the leaders. It is Hashem teaching us a lesson. That sometimes when you look at the broken person, from that brokenness comes the greatest leadership. From that brokenness will emerge a diamond. In the same way that diamonds are formed through intense heat. So hot, so much pressure, almost too much pressure to bear. And then afterwards, diamonds are cut again and again. Cut, scraped, polished. But what emerges is so beautiful. So when you look at the person to your right and left, and you see how difficult they had it, you should know Hashem probably believes in them. And wants them to have some leadership role, wants them to be mashpia. We say in davening the following, it's such a beautiful concept. We all want Yerushalayim to be rebuilt. We want it. We want us to be in Yerushalayim, and we say, Hashem, you're Bonei Yerushalayim. Bonei Yerushalayim, Hashem, you're the one who builds Yerushalayim. You know how we're going to do that? Through Kiruv. Nidchei Yisrael Yechanes. We're going to gather in those who are far-flung. We're going to bring them in. But you know how we're going to do that? How are we going to do Kiruv? Are we going to slap tefillin on people? Is that called Kiruv? What is Kiruv? What is Kiruv? You got to go to the next pasuk. You know what it says in the next pasuk? Those who heal the brokenhearted and gather in their sorrow. You know what Kiruv is? It's by discovering the other person's beauty through their pain. Looking at the other person and not saying, he's fat, she's thin, he's tall, she's short, he's got this kind of yarmulke, they got that kind of havara, they use this kind of nusach, I have that kind of minhag. Let's let's just only stick within our own. No, there are people who are brokenhearted, and if we can be people who are who heal the brokenhearted, or and gather in their sorrow, we're gonna build Yerushalayim. But how do we do that? So you got to get to the next pasuk, a very odd pasuk, because it seems like it's not connected. And the pasuk goes, the very next pasuk, Moine mispar la'koichavim, lechulam shemos yikra. You count, you put a number to the stars, and you give each one of them a name. About a week and a half ago, I was in Israel, I was in Eretz Israel, and I was in the desert, lying down, looking up at the heavens with my students. And it's so dramatic. There are so many stars in the heavens, they're uncountable. Actually, according to science, there's 10 to the 23rd. It's an incredible amount of stars. So many stars, there are way more stars than there are grains of sand in this world. Way more, not even close. And we could say, Hashem, you need so many stars? Hashem says, yeah, I counted every star. Every one of those stars are important. I value them so much that l'chulam shemos yikra. Every one of those stars have a name. What does that pasuk have to do with healing the brokenhearted and gathering their sorrow? And the answer is, the reason that we have a difficult time gathering in people's sorrow is we forget they have a name. Every single person has a name. Moine mispar la'koichavim. Klal Yisrael is doimet to the kochavim. Lechulam shemos yikra. Every single person, every single star has a name. What you're supposed to accomplish, who you are, your life's journey. Every person here is a star. And every person, if you go to an asifa and you'll find 100,000 yidden, not a single one is expendable. Not one yid is expendable. There's not one yid that we wouldn't cry and daven and stop the learning in yeshiva for and give tzedakah for and mention in our mishabechs. Every single yid. There's no such thing as Jewish collateral damage. No. One yid is too many. You know, there's a Mishnah in Masechtas Tamid that speaks about the fact that they used to decide who gets to clean the Mizbech by having a race running up the ramp. And the Mishnah says once somebody was knocked off of the ramp and they broke their leg. And since then, they don't do it like that. They use a kalpi, they use a lottery system. Why? One person got hurt and you end the entire custom? Yes, because one person is too many. L'chulam shemos yikra. Every single person is awesomely precious. That's what the pasuk is saying. I'm going to finish with this idea. Sometimes the people who are around you need to hear that you understand how precious they are. We all, on some level, struggle with self-esteem. We do. It's the reason why we daven, when we bench Rosh Chodesh, we ask for Chaim Shel Oisher V'Chavod. Why do we need kavod? I once asked this to my Rabbi, Rabbi Heshi Weissman. You know what he answered? He says, because we need it. We need it. Even if it's a shminis shebeshminis, we need to feel desired. We need to feel wanted. We need to feel like we belong. We're important. And sometimes we need somebody to tell it to us. Almost every kid that comes to my desk that is having issues in life can be traced back to the parents not giving them enough recognition and enough respect and enough self-esteem. Almost every kid. Because when you give a child self-esteem, the child feels good about themselves. You know the most beautiful thing you could tell a child is? It's magic. What I'm going to tell you is magic. If you have children or grandchildren, it works the same. If you have children and they're sitting on the floor playing with Lego or coloring in a coloring book, stand over them and say, I love to watch you color. I love to watch you play Lego. Watch how well they play that Lego. Watch how beautifully they color that coloring book. Mommy likes to watch me color. Zadie likes to watch me play. I love to hear you play piano. My kids play instruments. I know there's nothing that makes them feel better than for me to sit myself down and just, I love to watch you play. And they play better, and they play with more love and more musicality, and the whole thing is beautiful because we need to know that somebody loves to watch us. We need to know it. When we don't know that we're special, so then we begin to feel maybe I don't have a name. L'chulam shem sikra, but maybe not me, maybe I'm the exception. When I was in yeshiva in Mesivta, my first year, I was not a very studious student. I was not a very good bacher. Wasn't bad. I just was drifting. You know how you drift? You know, you come, you schluff, you play with your little toys at your desk. You wait till recess, you go out, you play really hard, then you come in and you drift a little while longer. And what's interesting was, in the yeshiva that I went to Telz Yeshiva growing up, and in Telz, they don't give olives and bases and gimels like they do in a regular yeshiva. In Telz, they give titles. So at the end of each Zman, at the end of each semester, you get a title based on how well you did. So the top title is called Hitzdainus. Hitzdainus means you're excellent. So if you're a Hitzdainus bacher, you're awesome, you're amazing. And the next semester, the whole semester, oh, here comes the Hitzdainus bacher. Oh, I want to learn with the Hitzdainus bacher. Hitzdainus is a big deal. That's if you get from a 96 to 100. If you get a 95, then your title changes a little bit. It's called Tov Ma'od. I'm sorry, it's called Suffolk Hitzdainus. Suffolk Hitzdainus. You're not Hitzdainus, you're not awesome, you're Suffolk. You may be awesome, you're questionably awesome. Suffolk Hitzdainus 95. If you get under a 95, let's say a 94, then your title changes. You're called Naila Ma'od. You're going up nicely. If you get a 90, you're Suffolk. Naila Ma'od. It's a Suffolk, but you're going up nicely. And it keeps going down from there. And a really low grade in Telz is something called Tov Ma'od. Now, Tov Ma'od sounds great. Tov Ma'od, Tov Ma'od. But actually, in the yeshiva I went to, that's like a very, very low grade. You're like below, right? Because after Naila Ma'od comes Naila. And then after Naila, you're going all the way down to Tov Ma'od. And then if you get Tov, you're about failing. So my first Zaman in the yeshiva, I got Tov Ma'od. And I was a little bit clueless. I came back to my parents and said, I got Tov Ma'od. You should be proud of me, Tov Ma'od. My parents were clueless. They did not know Tov Ma'od is not so good. Yeah, Tov Ma'od. The next Zman, my second Zman there, it was in the middle of the Zman, and I had like 2 good days of like really good learning. And there was a young man, I'm gonna mention his name right now so that he should be remembered for a bracha. He's alive, Baruch Hashem, but I want him to have a bracha this Rosh Hashanah. His name was Tzvi Goldman from Baltimore. And he was one of the top bachrim in my shir. And he saw me learning my 2 good, strong days, 2 out of the whole semester, 2 good days. And he turns to some of the people in the shir and he said, you know, I think Klatzko's going to get Hitzdainus. This man, he's going to get Hitzdainus. He's a Hitzdainus bacher. And I'm like, me? Hitzdainus? No, those are for the smart guys. Me, I'm Tov Ma'od. At that time, I already understood. Tov Ma'od wasn't that great. No, he's going to be Hitzdainus. And I began to think, why not? Why not me? Why not? Maybe I can be Hitzdainus. And the switch flipped in my brain, and I began to work hard, and I worked very hard, And I ended up, not with the Steiners, sorry, it doesn't have that happy ending. I ended up with the Nyla Ma'od 93, but that was still far above what I was doing. The next Zman, I worked even harder. I got Suffolk Steiners. So and then eventually I got Steiners. And until today, I am grateful to this bacher that doesn't even know I'm mentioning him here in Borough Park 30 years later. He doesn't know. But he's gebenched because he said words that showed that he believed in me. And all I needed was one guy to say, I believe in you. You could be special. All the person next to you needs, all your children need, all your grandchildren need is for you to say, I know that you're special. I love to watch you color. I love to watch you learn. I love how much chesed you're involved with. I love how beautiful you sing. And they'll begin to feel like a star with a name. And once they feel like that star with the name, they taka will shine. Because the one who created them is the greatest artist of all. And he doesn't make rejects. He doesn't make products that are recalled. Nobody's recalled. Everyone is gorgeous. And if even a non-Jew is called Tselem Elokim, then we are Banim Lamakim, even more so. And how much does Hashem love his children? And how much should we value each and every person here? So that's my few words of chizuk for this Elul. Just to remember Roima Musa Adam. And the next time you pick up the phone, compliment just a little bit more. Let the person know how special you think they are. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to live up to your compliment. And maybe one day that person's going to stand in front of an audience and say, because of the telephone call I once had with you, I began to feel the courage and the ability to reach my potential. Thank you very much.